That's the one thing I think has been interesting, is that I think people are more aware of how fragile and dynamic this thing called life is.
Yeah. If you believe we can change the narrative, if you believe we can change our communities, if you believe we can change the outcomes, then we can change the world. I'm Rob Rickerton. Welcome to Disruption Now. I want to talk about kind of what you see as future for Talmetrix, but also kind of the industry and the workforce. What do you think a post-COVID-19 economy and workplace looks like?
Oh, man. Oh, this is a hell of a topic. I just facilitated a panel talking about the talent mindset for the future of work. And Rob, a couple of things that came out of that conversation. You remember when COVID first came out, everybody was rushing to go to the next normal?
Yep.
Not the next normal, the new normal, right?
The new normal, yep.
And one of the colleagues that was on the panel with me said, oh, I don't know about a new normal, but I know there's going to be a next normal, and whenever that happens, it will happen. So that's one thing I would say.
There's going to be a next normal.
There's just going to be a next normal. But it won't be what was. And here's why, right? You've got roughly over 60% of the professional workforce still working remote. And you know how habits get formed. So even though some people are under distress working remote, other people are figuring out how to make this work for them, right? And so guess what? When the quote unquote return to work, I don't think you're going to find that many folks that are going to be that dying to run back to getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning, getting the kids ready for school, getting dressed, and driving 45 minutes to an office where they're only really productive, maybe 60%.
Because we've seen it, you don't have to do any of that now.
Right.
So
I'm saving money on dry cleaning? What?
You see what I'm wearing? I don't have to go out anywhere no more. This is great. I mean, this is it's opened up. I mean, it's been a double edge. One part of it is I'm a social being. Like, I would love for us to be able to do this in person, get drinks, talk, whatever, and be able to rap in person. At the same time, I also embraced and was prepared for the next normal because I was already doing virtual interviews before this. Some people looked at me crazy beforehand. They were like, well, what do you mean virtual interviews? But COVID, was I think it accelerated trends and like, all right, we'll do it. And now everybody does it. And you're right, their behavior has adapted to it.
Yeah, and so that's the other thing. There are so many things that we thought from a change initiative or a transformation it was going to take longer to get to.
Yep.
COVID accelerated that.
Oh,
right?
Yes.
And so, on the S curve of innovation, we moved through some of those transformations to the next normal faster in terms of using technology, working remotely and virtually and all these things. So, it's creating new innovation. So that's the other thing we still don't know yet, because one of the things we talked about on this panel was, there's the future of work, what work is going to look like, but what are the future of business going to look like? Retail has taken a hit. Is retail ever going to come back? What's going to be the shopping experience like? So there's so much yet to change in terms of the next normal. And I think it's a ripe opportunity for folks who are courageous enough to go out there and be entrepreneurs and be innovators, because there's going to be new stuff that gets created. So we just created a new playing field to innovate from.
Agreed.
Because one of the things that's always been fascinating to me when I think about innovation, it's like we're in pursuit of, they say the God particle back in the Indiana Jones. Everybody's looking for it's like we're in pursuit of that all-knowing, omniscient kind of power. So we're constantly chasing that of evolution, right? So there's always going to, the universe is expanding at a faster rate. So there's more stuff to do and create as it expands. So I think, for organizations who get the idea that they're going to have to constantly evolve, because one of our other premises here when we're working with clients are organizations are dynamic human systems. So organizations that better understand the human and the human experience of workers and employees and customers are going to be the ones that I think win out in this next normal coming up. And then those of us who are out here in the entrepreneurial world who are constantly evolving and ingesting new technologies and new innovations faster, I think are going to find our ability to be able to sustain these changes. I was just talking to my board earlier this week, and I said, 2020 was weird, right? We had our best Q1 and our best Q4, but Q2, Q3 was like tumbleweeds.
Yeah, yep.
And so you think about 2020, first part, the 20, half of it was bad, but the other half was great. So
Yep.
let's go great, and let's figure out what we can continue to do and evolve and be more effective and sustain and thrive as change. Because that's the one thing I think has been interesting, is that I think people are more aware of how fragile and dynamic this thing called life is.
Yeah,
right?
I agree. So people will be more, hopefully more just grateful and intentional in the moment. Because I would have never thought everybody, when this stuff happened, I was like, okay, it's going to be a few weeks. All right, maybe it's going to be another month. Okay, maybe it'll be over in the summer. I just stopped guessing now. I just said we're gonna have to we're at whatever the next normal is. We are there, and we have to figure out how to adapt to it. I mean, the hard side is I'm like I said, I'm an extrovert. The good side is that I've been able to get more done than I ever have. Right, so because you sit down and I have more time to just do concentrated work than I did before. So now I can get in 5 hours what used to take me 8 or 9 or 10. So,
and let me tell you, my friend, running a business and making sure we've got good client relationships and partnering. I was on a plane 60 to 70% of the time before COVID. And, for the roughly 25, 30 years I've been working, I've always traveled. This is the first time that I haven't traveled nearly at all. I mean, I've taken, in the 12 months that we've been in COVID, I've been on a plane twice.
Yep.
It's so bad that I forgot how to use my Delta app. And you're talking to a dude with over 2 million miles on Delta.
Oh, that's serious.
I'm a road warrior. And so for me, the quality of I feel better, I'm sleeping better. I as an operating system am far more effective and efficient, even in the midst of COVID, than I think I would have been had we not had this moment. So I'm taking it. I know it's not the greatest thing for a lot of people, but I'm trying to make some lemonade out of these lemons.
That's exactly what because that's you can control the controllables. We can't control COVID. We can't. Right. We just can't. We can only control protecting ourselves and doing what we can to make sure that we can thrive and our families can thrive and our communities can thrive in the moment. So I do think that is the right mentality to have. And I also think the upside could be you now don't have to go out and do as much traveling because now people have been socialized, right? Their habits have changed. Say, well, you don't have to fly out to San Francisco to have a 2-hour meeting. Like, why do we have to do that? Like, and then not, I mean, I'm sure we'll do it some, but we don't have to do it at the level that we thought was always necessary. So to that extent, there's some benefit, but yeah.
No, totally. I mean, we just onboarded a lot of new clients in Q4 that I'd never met face to face.
Yep. And all my clients now have been remote clients. It's just kind of funny how that's worked, and but people are now socialized this way. We don't, we can now do this. So there is opportunity in this. I was telling some of the I call them kids. God, that making me feel old, but college students that I've mentored and some engineering students. Because they're all like really, really down. I get it. I would in college it would be awful.
Yeah,
right. I get it. But as the same advice I'm giving you now, that you're giving the listeners, and we're talking about now, is that take advantage of this moment. Though there's a whole bunch of people that are not in these virtual spaces. You can meet people at these conferences. Because I was trying to get them to my conference, and it was free. It was hard to get. Like, I don't want to go to a virtual conference. I'm like, but you can meet. I'm telling you who's here. Like, we have the CEO of this, the CEO of that. I'm like, you probably wouldn't be able to do this in person. So do it. And some people did take advantage, but a lot of people didn't, not understanding that there is opportunity in this moment, and the window's going to close, or the door is going to close. You either walk through it or it closes, and then hope for another opening.
Yeah. So, but no, I mean, all good stuff. And then your other part of your question you asked me, Rob, was what's happening with Talmetrix going forward.
Yes.
Well, one of the interesting things, we continue to innovate. One of the things we are discovering that people are using, social platforms far more, and actually data, a lot more what we call in our world unstructured data, right? The ability to mine and understand sentiment of what people are saying and are doing, but also themes. And so we're advancing our technology and capability to do much more natural language processing, which also uses AI, but also making sure that we are sensitive to the programming of that from a diversity and inclusion standpoint. So we're just seeing some really interesting new product technology development, but then also evolving our work with our customers and our clients that are out there. We're fortunate that we're partnered with some really noted firms in the diversity and equity inclusion space, with Diversity Inc. and the National Organization on Disabilities are partners of ours that we work with. And so we're working with them too to help amp up and amplify how to use data and insights to inform culture and diversity, equity and inclusion programs, and overall employee experience. Because as we said, we won't be going back to where we were. So let's equip and enable organizations to move forward into that next normal, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Final question. You have a billboard Google ad that is a slogan for what you want Talmetrix to stand for, or your slogan for life. What does that say and why?
Oh, man. Oh, man, I got a couple. You shouldn't ask me, but all right. So, hey, you're on Highway 75 on your way to Detroit or Louisville. You see all these signs. But anyway, I would say one for us at Talmetrix is stop guessing, start knowing. Because a lot of leaders will guess, take uninformed guessing about what's happening with their employee population. That's one. The other one is around humanizing the experience. That's what we do with how we present the information and data and intelligence we do, is really to bring that humanity back to the workplace, back to the communities that where we live and work. Because I think that's what's really been lost over at least in my lifetime. It feels less humane than it did when I was a kid.
Yeah. Final question for you here. You got a committee of 3, living or dead, and they can advise you about, since you're in the business of people, they can advise you about the business of people and how to go best forward. Tell me the 3 people you choose on this board. Again, they can be with us, not with us, and why do you choose them?
Ooh, geez. Boy, man, that's a really good one. Let's see. Lao Tzu, who wrote Tao Te Ching, which was a Chinese philosopher. I forget the time period, but just some really solid principles of living life in spirit from a setting what I call the moral compass of how I comport myself in this time and space. Martin Luther King, around being an advocate for human equity. Back to my whole thing about bringing humanity and grace back into the conversation. And then I'm going to go with Steve Jobs.
Okay.
Relentless innovator.
Yes, he was.
And not the kind of innovation what I used to tease some leaders in the organization, not the marginal innovation like a new flavor of Kool-Aid, but like breakthrough stuff, right?
Right.
Yeah, give me a little bit of that. That's, on that edge where actually as I mature in life, I am more comfortable being on that edge of being the break in the water versus the wake in the water.
Yeah. What is your definition? I want to hear your definition as we close of innovation. What is it? You've kind of give me a few. Give me what you think what your definition is. I know there's no way to really summarize it, but everybody has their own kind of way to view it. What's your view of innovation?
For me, it's as I was just describing, it's not that kind of iterative innovation. That is a form of innovation, but for me, it's really about that which creates new learning and new opportunity. It creates new space, uncreated. It has not been created. So that's, in my world, that's where it looked like. If I explore the combination of A plus B, it's not going to give me C. It's going to give me Z or something. Something breakthrough. And that's how I look at the world, because we're in the space we play in. There are a lot of folks who are doing really great, what I call marginal innovation. But what we're constantly looking for is what's that breakthrough that helps us better understand ourselves, right? Through all the noise, what's going to give you that bit of insight about you as an individual, or that organization, the insight about them to make them better than who they are. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my definition is innovation is a rebellion against the status quo, and not accepting things as they are, and starting from that premise. And because it's so similar to what you said.
Yeah,
because
you just said it shorter, sweeter, and nicer than I did. You had time to think about it. I had to come off the top of my head.
No, it was very good. No, but this is, I've been thinking about this for a while, but that's what I consider it at its root. It's not accepting things in their current circumstance. It's not being just weighted by the current picture and saying the only way to get to C is A and B, right?
Right.
To go back to your metaphor, I can maybe do A, D, and E, and then I get Z, or I get Z, C, whatever. The point is, like, I don't find you don't find yourself having to be stuck in that limited mindset. I think why a lot of innovations fail, though, is as I'm learning, I consider myself an innovative thinker. Where I struggle, where I have to keep going back to, is also, okay, how do I go from the innovation here to also the execution? Like, you got to marry both, and often, the two don't come together. When the two come together, that's when you create. Because Steve Jobs had Wozniak, right? Like, because so you still got to have. Often you don't have that. You have a person that is the marginal person, but they make a successful business, different from being an innovative business that becomes.
I will tell you. You bring up a really good point, right? So I am very comfortable in exploring the unknown, right? I thrive in it, right? But one of the things I've learned through coaching and developing and mentors is you do need to have the capability of the partners of the team who can blueprint.
Yep.
So that which you were thinking and creating can start to take form and structure and move through that whole manifestation process into reality, right?
Yep.
And so that, too, for those folks who are out there in the entrepreneurial space and then thinking about it, we all play different roles. There are some folks who are that cutting edge, innovative, out the box thinker, right? And then there are other folks who are crazy innovative on how to create blueprints to bring things into being. And then there are other innovators on how to operate and scale. And so that's been the learning and journey for me on this, is that, hey, dude, you ain't got to do it all.
Exactly.
With the S on your chest every day.
You can do anything, but you can't do everything, brother.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. And so and being open to leveraging the competencies and skills and talents of others is a huge part of being an entrepreneur, I think, as well.
Yeah. Chris Powell, Talmetrix, man. I appreciate you, man. This is a good conversation.
Hey, Rob, thank you for having me, my friend.